Good afternoon, and welcome to Expose Yourself to Art. This is our weekly series where we talk with artists and people who present the arts about what's happening in our area and the creative process. My name is Linda Scheller. Usually I'm joined by David Schrader, but he has another engagement today, so he'll be back next week. First, though, we're going to hear from Linda Knoll, who has something to say about an upcoming art activity. Come on in, Linda.
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to let people know about the Stanislaus Artist Open Studio Tour, which is happening on October 16th and 17th. It's a tour of about 24 studios around the county, and you can get your free tickets map booklet at Missland Gallery or online at stanislausaos.com. So we hope you join us.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Linda. So, our guest today is Tina Arnapol Driskill. She's a native of Modesto. As a journalist, her career has included work with the Modesto Bee, the Stockton Record, the Hanford Sentinel, and the Coalinga Record. She has been writing for the Modesto Peace Life Center's Stanislaus Connections since its inception alongside Fred Herman, who she met as a copy editor when she worked at the Bee. She initiated a gathering of Voices poetry page and Green Tips for a Green Planet. She's going to be talking about CBS Sundays and her own poetry. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you, Linda.
So good to have you on our show. So let's start out talking about CBS Sundays. What is the history of this series?
The series began, I think, in 1991. We're in our 30th season right now. We're just starting our 30th anniversary season. And Dorothy Baldoff, along with Grace Lieberman, came together because Dorothy noticed that at CBS, which is Congregation Beth Shalom in Modesto, we had a sanctuary that had really tremendous acoustics. And so, and we also, it was before so many of the other music scene had come on board in the last few years. So back then we had the symphony, which is, like over 100 years, like older, very old anyway. And we had Community Concert Association. Other than that, they were looking to bring a chamber music series to town.
Oh.
So that's how it started. And then over the years, it has evolved and includes just any number of genres. We don't do heavy metal, of course, but everything else is included, and that includes. And we've had people from as far away as Australia, Austria, and Canada, and people from coast to coast in the United States, and some very fine local musicians. And we've had world beat and classical and jazz and bluegrass and newgrass and new age and country and opera and Americana, roots, Celtic, south of the border, and more. So we include pretty much anything that's really, really good, with really good musicianship and great stage presence, we include.
Now, who chooses the artists?
Well, we had a committee, and originally it was Dorothy and Grace, and then for the last 21 years, I have been instrumental in bringing most of them in, and that comes from very different areas. You just never know where you're going to find what you've done, what you find as well. And we've included some tremendous people, including Alistair Fraser and Natalie Haas, and Tingstead and Rumble, Andy Statman of In the Fiddler's House fame, which is a famous recording of klezmer and other types of Jewish music. Actually, Abby Statman brought klezmer to the United States in the modern era.
Wow.
And the Bills from Canada, and Mark Atkinson from Canada, the Ronstep Brothers, and that Ronstep name should sound familiar to people.
As in Linda?
As in Linda, they're her nephew.
Wow.
And their father was with them when he was alive, and that was her brother. And gypsy jazz and big band sounds with a French twist with the duo Gajo. Fish Tank Ensemble, very unique. She plays a great saw.
Oh my.
The voice of Perla Bataya, who was Leonard Cohen's premier singing partner. She really sang Hallelujah. Her Hallelujah you can't beat. Matt Eckel is with the David Grisman Quintet. The list goes on. And some really great local people too.
Do people make recommendations to you?
People do recommendations, and I used to get a lot from the World Music Festival up in Grass Valley.
Oh,
the kind of music that we like to present.
That's great. Do you have some images that you can show us of maybe some of the past acts, or what's coming up maybe?
I think, Linda, you were sent a couple of Linda.
No.
Yeah. No, you were sent a couple of.
Here we go, CBS.
This is our front of our current brochure. That's not all of them. It's 4 of the acts. This was last year's brochure. This is our logo, which Dan Langhoff designed, and here's our current one, and I can talk more about them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the first group coming up is California Zephyr, and my cousin Alan wrote a little rap to explain what they're going to be doing, so I'll go ahead and read that. California Zephyr is rolling out of the west, and we're going to make a stop at CBS, bringing entertainment and sound so pleasing to kick off Sunday afternoon's 30th season. Acoustic, eclectic, electric for sure, but wait a minute, folks, there's so much more. Country, folk, Cajun, bluish, rockers, bluegrass, let's not forget Jewish. But hang on, friends, I'm not through. Gonna lay a little something extra on you. Another plus I gotta be touting. There's our newest band member, Allegra Broughton, who's our first female. A singer and songwriter of great acclaim. We had to sign her up because her talent is insane. And just to add more icing on the cake, a tribute to Steve Ewart is also on tap. Oh, been a long time coming, but make no mistake, a tribute to Steve Ewart is also on tap. You gotta be there, don't get any better than that. And you're wondering where and when? CBS, October 10th, 3 p.m. See you there, Alan.
All right.
So that's, and then the upcoming ones after that are is going to be our first Saturday non-Sunday performance, and that first is Saturday night, November 6th, with an exciting reggae dance party.
Ooh.
And I think there's somebody named Connie B that I should know about, I guess, but I can't say that I do. Anyway, plus a no-host bar and vegan food truck. And either you can be dancing in your seat or get up and enjoy the dancing. And there's going to be some good stuff to buy for if you get thirsty or hungry. And then on January 9th, the San Francisco Yiddish Combo, which is dirty cello cellist Rebecca Rodman, and it's klezmer with an updated twist you won't want to miss. The included international tea pastries will match the theme. February 13th carries our 21-year Valentine tradition with Grace Lieberman and David Bradford Valentine concert and tea, featuring the beautiful voice of Lisa Davila and chocolate. The much awaited opera Modesto sings the Celtic Diaspora, which is one of our, along with California Zephyr, it's one of our rescheduled ones from the 1920 season. And the 1919-2020 season. And they will be singing the Celtic Diaspora, and powerfully beautiful opera music voices will sing music from lands inhabited by ancient Celts who occupied much of temperate Europe, including what is now Hungary, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, France, Belgium, Ireland, and Britain, and the Iberian Peninsula, Portugal, and Spain. So it'll be quite a variety and an interesting, unusual concert. And then our finale will be feature Patty Castillo Davis, a local, very fine performer, and she will be performing the Latin, Ladino, and African-inspired music of her unique ancestry, with her deep, rich voice that will melt your heart.
Mm.
What's coming up this season?
Oh, that is great.
And
I
if
can't
you want
wait.
more, I think, do you have the back of that, Linda Knoll, the back of that brochure or not? Yeah, over here it gives the cbsmodesto.org/concert/series to learn about ticketing and more.
Could you repeat that a little more slowly, please, Tina, in case it's hard for people to read?
Okay, so they can go to cbsmodesto.org/concert-series, and then look for the concert link.
And where's the location of Congregation Beth Shalom?
Congregation Beth Shalom is on Sherwood Avenue, actually right next to Lady of Fatima Catholic Church, which is just off of Granger, between Granger and Briggsmore.
Thank you. So last year, everything had to be canceled, right?
We actually had 2 concerts on Zoom last year.
Oh,
We had our Valentine tea, and which included a drive-through where they could pick up some delicious goodies. The Valentine tea has wonderful, wonderful baked goods and tea sandwiches and the whole. It's a full tea, and we will have that again this year, but in person. And I should mention that our sanctuary, our building, has a new sound system, which is really fine, and the really good acoustics that I talked about earlier are even more so now. I'm working with Dave Rogers on the series this year, and he's saying as a drummer that he has to really tone down his drumming because it's such a set room. And so we've got that. We've got we are doing our seating the opposite way than what we used to do. So the seating is going to be, they'll have like 2 aisles rather, and 3 rows, and 2 seats here, 3 seats there, things like that, so that people will be distanced. And as you you see on the brochure that's up there, COVID protocol will be used, so that they will be asked to wear masks, and they will need proof of vaccination or a negative test within 72 hours of a performance. So we're doing everything in our power to keep people safe.
Oh, good. Excellent. Thank you. It looks like you have some other images. Oh, great.
Okay, so
There's
there's Patty, and above her is Lisa, and then part of California Zephyr. Alan and his son Seth are there, and the new one, Allegra Broughton. And I can't see if I think there's another one on that, but the whole group is not there. And the group in the right corner bottom is San Francisco Klezmer Ensemble. and there are two more inside, and Linda can show us the inside as well if she can. There you go. And if you scroll it to the right or left, you can see the whole group, all of the concerts. Maybe.
It's probably a still image, but it looks like we did have some other images. And who are these artists?
This was last year. So the Ronstep Brothers, on the top left are and they're one person that's not a relative, were there, 1920 season. And Duo Gajo, the French inspired with a twist couple is there. She's wearing a beret. That helps you know that she is from France. California Zephyr, who was scheduled, and there's Steve there, who, as we know, sadly passed away last year. In that picture, down at the bottom is Hot Club Faux Jeton. That is an outstanding local group, absolutely outstanding. And then I can't. What Linda has is not going over all the way. I don't think so. I'm not sure. Oh, and up top is Christine Capsuta, who has been our Valentine, and this year we're doing a little bit different Valentine, and we'll probably have different Valentines through the years, if as we continue. Or
So how far ahead do you have to work to get the acts lined up?
We usually are a year to with somewhere between a year and two ahead. This year, and with COVID, we've had many delays. So our brochure is just going to be getting to people in the mail that have in the past left their information with us and come to concerts, and so they should be getting those soon. And again, if you go to the website, you can get the information as well. And we start within 3 weeks.
Oh my. Now, normally, that is pre-pandemic, how many tickets would be available?
Well, the now that we've got chairs, that we used to have pews,
Okay.
chairs, but now that now that it's all the chairs can be moved in any direction, whether it's in a circle or along the edges, or facing the sanctuary or facing the backstage, which where we will be having the concerts. The concerts will be moved to the backstage. And then, but we have, if you've heard of the group, the Edlows, one of their members looked back and was looking at the two accordion doors and said, "Oh, look, it's an extendagog." So
That's great.
Our extendagog could seat probably up to 200, 250. But I don't, but not generally expecting to have, but I don't know how many chairs are actually available. But
wow. So you won't be cutting back in terms of numbers, will you?
We shouldn't need to, but
good. Do these acts generally sell out pretty quickly?
Well, like I said, this year it's a little tricky because we've had a difficult time getting the word out, and we, speaking to you and reminding people that we are working on our 30th season, and hope that they will come out, and because I think we've got a really fun and exciting season coming up.
Yeah, sure sounds like it. I look forward to it.
Yeah, and we're pretty much an intimate venue. it's not unusual for the audience and the performers to interact.
Ah,
And there have been times that we've literally danced in the aisles.
I was just about to ask that question.
Literally, we've gotten up and danced in the aisles to certain ones. We have had tango. We had a tango group, and they were fabulous.
Mm.
We had chairs on the sides, and the whole center was open for dancing.
Ooh.
So, or people could watch them. So everything's interactive. You can be as active an audience member or as conservative and sit in your seat quiet as you want.
Everything but heavy metal.
Yeah, right.
So far. Well, I look forward to it. Thanks so much for giving us this information. It's going to be a great season. Well, let's talk a little bit about you as a poet. Let's go back to your childhood. Who was a really strong influence on you as far as either music or writing or art? What were the influences that kind of got you on this path?
Well, as far as introducing me to the arts, my mother dragged me to the symphony and the community concert association. At that time, Mancini was leading it, and he had for many years, and it was mostly a local group. And it was at that point, for a young child, it was like kind of torture. The symphony is not that symphony anymore. The current symphony has traveling musicians who come in for to different symphonies, and it's a whole different ball game. But community concerts I enjoyed more because they had things like dancers and things like that, movement. So I was dragged along to that. She made me go to piano lessons, and they took me to my father dragged me to piano lessons, and like gave me dance lessons, and so I was exposed to the arts early on. And although I may have squirmed and had been restless at that point, I definitely grew to appreciate the arts through my mother. In the fourth grade, I had a very unusual teacher, because in those days she was so far ahead of her time. She taught like they do at Open Plan now. In other words, in groups, we did groups. We got together and wrote letters to other countries to make a big, huge book about a country that we would be working on. So we worked in coalition, and she had us write poems. So I wrote a poem, because that was what we were supposed to do. And for some reason, she had me come. She says, "Would you read this poem in front of the class?" And I went, "Okay." So I read the poem in front of the class. She says, "Now would you go to Mrs. Atwood's class next door?" And her name was Mrs. Walters. "Go to Mrs. Atwood's class next door, and I want you to read this poem." So I looked at her like, "What's she talking about?" And I walked over there and I read the poem, but that pretty much gave me a real boost toward interested in poetry. And then, as a like the next few years, I was reading it through my teenage angst years and preteen years and that kind of stuff. The standard teenage angst, get it out of my system with poetry type stuff. Nothing that I would want to read to anybody. And then, I kept writing on my own. And then in 1990, at the beginning of Well, when the 20th anniversary of the Earth Day came around, I I worked with somebody there who was into poetry, and I invited her over to my house and we read each other poetry. And from that, the Meter Maids started. We didn't have a name then, but it started in 1990. So we're also in our 30th year. And like I said, so this is our anthology, and this is a beautiful painting that was uh, painted for me by Julia Mensinger.
Hmm.
And this is available on Amazon, and if anybody's interested in this, we have submissions from, I can't remember how many poets, many poets, current and past members, people who moved away, things like that. And if people see us, we also have a lesser price to sell it for. Karen Baker and I edited the book, and so it is available if anybody wants to check with us or Amazon.
Excellent.
And then, so the Meter Maids has been going for 30 years, and then
What
I'm
are
like you, a member of the Licensed Fools, which I don't.
well? What are the Meter Maids meetings like?
Okay, we're a little different than most of the groups. Most of the groups come with already written poetry for reading and critiquing. We meet, we schmooze, and actually, I will tell you exactly what our meetings are like, because I included poems that were written by the Meter Maids, and the first one on the book by Carol Miller tells you exactly what our meetings are like.
Hmm.
3-course poem. First course, appetizers. A cheese plate with wedges of goat cheese and English lemon Stilton, spread on woven wheat crackers, luxurious trays of peanut butter cookies mixed with chocolate dates and honey. Second course, conversation. Sharing personal news, highlights, exchanging reassuring comments for continued good health, encouraging our fellow women's voices, sheltered by winged spirits, reminiscing about our individual childhoods or the budding children in our midst, dipping into the political scene of the royalty or the rich and famous who we wish a discovery of balance and compassion, the present generation's attempting resolution, success, freedom without suffering. Third course, writing. The sensual entrance into the hour of the poem guides us to the comfort of shared thoughts, comments, camaraderie. The pens skip across our notebooks, gathering words that have been sifted through the entwined paths. We only hear the whispers of our minds' voices, circling whatever comes forward, as though we were driving chariots with verses running attached to the reins.
Hmm.
So we schmooze, we share snacks, we and from that schmoozing and talking, we often gather words, phrases, and ideas to write about. We write and then we share our poetry.
So you don't have a set prompt ahead of time. It just kind of comes to you in the course of your conversation.
Well, that's not true. So yes and no. So a lot of it's from the conversation, but like in January, we do what we call Fortune Cookie Monday, where we use fortune cookies as prompts, and we write our own fortune cookies.
Oh, fun.
So we have two that we work with. We have at our holiday one, we exchange gifts, and I insist that we also write. I no matter that's at my house at this point. Over the many years, it's been at my house. So I want to be sure that we write no matter what we're doing. On Halloween, often we've had, or around Halloween, we'll do a stone soup. Where we'll bring things and make stone soup, and have soup and do the same thing. We've used the seasons that can be a prompt. Season the poetry, the most poetry challenge.
Hmm.
We've used those prompts. We've used prompts from things like workshops like you have led and other poets have led.
Hmm.
Just there's no set way of getting prompts. They come from all over.
That's great. And then you also read publicly sometimes?
We have been invited to read once or twice, and we're hoping. We've never been able to officially launch the book because of COVID,
Oh.
and we're hoping to do a book launching reading.
Have you thought about having your book elsewhere locally, like, I don't know, the McHenry Museum or other venues?
Thought about it, but maybe we can talk to you when we're not having an interview. You can give us ideas on where you think we should do that.
Okay, I will keep that in mind. So maybe you could read for us one of your poems. And I think we have an image that people can read along while you're reading aloud.
Do you want me to read one or both?
Let's start out with one, and then we can talk a little more, and then we could hear another one.
Okay. So I came across this the other day when you asked me to look for poems, and I was rather shocked. At the date, I looked at it and go, the only reason I knew I had written this is because my name was at the bottom. And this is Autumn Along the I-5, October 14th, 2006. Valley oaks rest serene amidst golden carpets of wild oats. Browned cornstalks stand at rapt attention as if they have a future.
Mm.
Freeway overpasses peek over their shoulders, bordered by Kohl's, Ross's, and Office Depot, standing in line as though they'd always shared the same space. There is still a between along the I-5 filled by vineyards, orchards, grain fields, and an occasional dairy. Windbreaks of oak and poplar stands follow floodplain stretches to meet planted fields. Rivers crisscross harvested landscapes. Riparian habitats lie peacefully under the afternoon autumn sun. A brindle cow wanders off from her black and white Holstein herd. Sandhill cranes fly in ever-changing V's toward winter climes. We rush by, curiously note busy byways. Cars race ahead like blood from a cut artery, scarring the autumnal peace of a Sabbath afternoon.
Wow, that's very rich in imagery. And you really do a lovely job of depicting our area. And
Thank you.
normally, how do you find inspiration?
Well, one of my things, I even wrote a poem about it, but I don't have it with me here. It is called the Shower Muse, because when I get into that shower, I'm going, somehow all these ideas rush over me. That's the places, which has also inspired this room that we're in that it's kind of a sunroom sanctuary. It's a really special place. A lot comes to me for some reason as water is gently rushing, coming over me. Writing with meter maids every month keeps a lot of that going. Trying to get something together for the Fools has done that. Other times it's just my brain is going and something comes up and I have to write it.
Do you read the work of other poets?
Yes, not as I wish I had time for, but yes.
Do you have any favorites that you might mention off the top of your head?
Well, my all-time favorites have been Wallace Stevens' Sunday Morning.
Mm-hmm.
and which I still am yet to figure out. But the imagery is just so beautiful. I sort of thinking I'm getting an idea of what who was an insurance executive,
Yes.
which surprised me, and Robert Frost, The Death of the Hired Man, and The
Mm.
Road Less Traveled. Those I just those are classic poets from the past, and I'll have to say that the poets in this area,
Hmm.
most poets and other poets that are brought to this area, we have some of the finest poets anywhere. We
I
have a
concur.
very rich poetry community here in this area.
Yes, absolutely. So do you usually write at a certain time of day?
No, I'm not that disciplined.
Just whenever you have a chance or whenever something
Whenever,
strikes you?
yeah, whenever something strikes me, and then I just and I take the time to act on it.
Uh-huh.
I've
Do
lost
you,
many.
oh, do you usually write, like in a notebook freehand first or write onto the computer?
No, I'm a hand writer. Yep, definitely write by hand.
Do you do a lot of revision and editing of your work?
When I transpose it to the computer, that's when I do the editing.
Hmm. Do you read it out loud to yourself to listen for the music and make changes accordingly?
The rhythm seems to be not out loud for me, but my interaction, the eye to the page, the reading, the line breaks, all of that, are tell me whether it works or not.
Well, maybe we can hear you read the other poem that you have for us. I would love to hear it.
This is another autumn poem, and
Good.
this one, the history of this one is kind of interesting. We are right now this month um, in the high holiday season of the Jewish year. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. We're in Sukkot right now, which is the harvest festival. Um, all of this has to do with um, repentance, forgiveness, going inward,
Mm.
and and it also fits in with autumn, which is what autumn is a time where everything's going inward.
Hmm.
So autumn, springtime of the soul. So it was during this time of year that this term springtime of the soul came to me. Autumn, springtime of the soul. Silence enters as autumn permeates the senses, rests upon fallen leaves, mutates into vibrant rust palette. Nature takes respite, gives pause in withered tones, reflects within. Intimacy is dear, matures, opens, enters inner space. Overhead, light is revealed, forest opens to muted skies. Trees hide inside a skin of bark, open to root connection. Safe inside, rings of years engage in self nurture. Lit from within, grow dormant, serene. Are renewed, uplifted, teach a soulful lesson.
Mm. Very nice. Oh, wow. Written at the Most Poetry Workshop led by Linda Scheller.
Oh
Oh.
my goodness. Well, that was actually, I tried to write that poem before, but this is when I finally got this one together.
Well, I'm so happy.
That is, I'm glad you noticed that. Paying attention.
Well, thank you, Tina. Gosh.
What was the subject of that workshop, I wonder?
Well, I wonder, could that have been archetypes and dreams?
I don't. It was 6/15/19, so I don't know.
Yeah, that might have been archetypes and dreams because you're talking about trees and autumn and All right. Well, that's kind of fun. And it's a beautiful poem. Thank you so
And,
much.
and if you notice, if you see the whole thing at one space, um,
Oh, yes.
it's kind of like I can't do it. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it kind of came out. decided to write it down the center, center it, and
Mm-hmm.
got kind of like a tall, skinny tree.
Yes, a concrete poem.
Was that
Yeah,
concrete poem?
yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, that's great. What advice would you give to someone who maybe has done other kind of writing? Like I presume you studied journalism in college, right? And worked as a journalist for many, many years, and then became much more serious about poetry through a lovely, fortuitous kind of launch into meter maids. But what might you tell someone who's thinking about trying their hand at poetry?
Well, the thing that I always do, let's take the painter of that picture. Julia is a very fine silkscreen artist, and I saw the beauty of her artwork, and she speaks poetically.
Mm.
And I said to her, "You should come to the meter maids," and she's looking at me like I'm crazy, of course. And I'm going, anybody who can paint like that and who can speak like that can write poetry. So she's been happily joining us ever since. But she never gave any thought to writing poetry. My thought about writing poetry for my own self is I got to be sure to get out of my own way. In other words, I don't think about poetry. For me, it's intuitive. It just comes in. And if I try to work at it and contain it into a certain time, a certain place, a certain way of doing it,
Mm-hmm.
I could easily block myself.
Yeah.
So me, it's what's coming in. It's allowing myself to empty out and allow.
Do you sometimes write something and then think, what on earth does that mean? And yet it feels right. You're not even sure why you wrote it, or, but sometimes that's clear to other people before it is to you.
I have written some stream of consciousness, but I pretty much know my poetry is pretty accessible, I think. I'm not one of the poets that gets metaphors that are out there so far that everybody's going, huh?
Do you enjoy writing formal poetry, like writing a sonnet, for example, or linked haiku or something, as a challenge at least?
I've done those as challenges, but I am much more inclined to do free verse.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any objection to rhyme? When you're reading poetry, do you find that rhyme is an impediment to your enjoyment?
No. I used to write in rhyme, and every now and then I have something I write in mine. We have one of our authors in this book. One of our meter maids is somebody I call the Queen of Rhyme, and she writes on every subject under the sun in rhyme. Extremely, amazing talent with rhyme.
It's hard to do well.
And
it really is.
But it's natural for her. It's just natural.
Is she musical also by chance?
She sings.
Aha.
Sing. She's also a rabbi.
Oh, very nice. That's great.
So I would read one of them, but then I don't think I should unless I would ask permission.
Sure, I understand. Well, I saw in your bio that you've also been an activist. What are some of the causes that you have been active in?
Well, with Stanislaus Connections, I instituted Green Tips for a Green Planet. It's my belief system that all of this bickering and crazy human interaction that we're having now and all the stuff that's going on is pretty much moot unless we put planet Earth first.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my activism has to do with the environmental challenges that we humans have, along with the natural ones that come up anyway, have inflicted on the planet. And that's been my major activism. I've been politically active in women's marches and marches for a couple of those.
Mm-hmm.
I support our local congressman because I think he really is doing a real job, not just being a politician.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been active in some political canvassing, not a lot, and I support others who will have a voice in civil rights or planetary rights or human rights.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
I try to encourage people to speak up and not just sit back and wait for everybody else to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a time right now where everybody needs to speak up and not just we already know bad things happen when good people do nothing. So
Yes.
So the activism is not just standing by and looking the other way.
Mm-hmm. And poetry is a good way to contribute your voice to that of others.
That a lot of my poetry is about things like that, I think.
And you've done so much work with Stanislaus Connections. How many years did you do the Gathering of Voices?
I never counted the years. That was certain things in my life have come about, like working with the content series, and this one came about because other people came to me and said, "Would you do this or would you do that?" In Gathering of Voices, Gordon Preston came to my house one day and said, "I want to talk to you," and said, "You should be doing a poetry column or something." And I looked at him and going, had never come to my mind. But then I mentioned it to my husband, and he said, "Yeah, it could be called a Gathering of Voices."
Perfect.
And then the beautiful part of that is the first one we did was George Rogers.
Oh.
I worked my tail off to get his work in, and he got it the day before he passed away. He was
My goodness.
given to him in the hospital.
Oh my.
So I've been very thankful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, George Rogers was a very, very popular sixth grade teacher, a wonderful poet and musician who left us too soon. But that's so great, Tina, that you published his poetry and that he got to see it in print. That's really quite a testament to his talents. And thank you for that.
And right now I'm working with his son Dave Rogers, on the series.
Oh, really? He's also a poet?
No, on at Sunday afternoons at CBS.
Oh, I see.
Dave, I'm working with Dave.
Is he helping line up acts, or he's a musician himself?
He is a very fine musician, very fine musician. and he has done, and he's involved with many different groups, and is gigging all the time. And he does a drum circle in town,
Oh, yes.
which is just fun, fun, fun.
Oh, my goodness. I've seen you there. I didn't realize that was,
That's
oh, wow.
Yep, yeah,
Oh, I'll be.
and he brought in the Saturday night reggae.
Mm. Oh,
Uh,
fab.
yeah, and yeah, we tend to see eye to eye on a lot of the liking a lot of the same kinds of things. He likes world beat. He likes a lot of the things that.
That's great. Well, the only other thing I wanted to ask you about are your travels. I guess you travel quite a bit.
I had traveled quite a bit pre COVID.
Yeah, I guess I should reword that. Does that also then spill into your poetry?
I have written poems based on either while I'm traveling or when I get back. I have definitely written poems based on experiences or things like that. And I was saying, because I've been fortunate to have traveled to every continent but Australia. Now, one or two of those, or at least one of those continents was a stopover on the airplane and then off again. But uh, I just I was that traveling allowed me to connect with people in most every culture, and I believe that people all over the world want the same things: love of family, culture, the arts, safety, security, and the freedom to live in peace and harmony.
Hmm.
So I don't see a whole lot of difference when I go to one place or another, in how people interact with one another.
And it must have really broadened your musical horizons too.
Well, that's been one of my big frustrations. There were a couple of artists that were street musicians in a couple of places that I would have given anything to bring to the United States.
Oh.
But it's so difficult
Hmm.
with terrorists and all kinds of, so guys from another country were, are looked, at very suspiciously, young guys, or they don't have the money to come over here, and the roadblocks to getting a traveling visa
Oh dear.
are very difficult. It's just a very difficult thing to do.
Hmm.
So hard. So that I was not ever successful in that one.
Mhm. What would you like to see more of in our area in terms of the arts?
Ooh, I think we've got such a rich arts community. Um, that's a hard question. um, oh, there's very little for preschool children here.
Oh,
Now we've got the new museum coming,
yes, yes.
and that's going to make a difference. And actually, I should mention that I was part of a group with Grace Lieberman and Sue Levy and some other people we know, who started the Yes You Can Children's Museum way back
Oh my.
when my kids were young. So we'd started that, and I'm glad to see that they're moving forward with the current version, which is
Hmm.
opening up on 11th Street within the next year or so. So that's good. But there just are not enough opportunities for young children that are affordable and accessible in the arts. As far as, of course, the people that have enough money, that have the contacts are getting their children involved with dance and gymnastics and all the rest of it, and painting and clay and whatever. But I think that's what I think we need more of in this area is opportunities for younger children, preschool age.
Yeah, I'll be so happy to see the Modesto Children's Museum opening up, and hopefully they'll offer a lot in terms of the arts. I interviewed Chelsea Foy, who was a student of mine when she was Chelsea Costa, and she's a singer and an actor, and they have wonderful, wonderful ideas for the future and what they can offer, and ways to make it all inclusive and affordable for everyone. So it'll be truly a museum for this entire community. So
I think that's great. And there need to be more children's theater groups, and yeah, the Gallo has had a very nice one. My grandchild was involved in it at one point, and yeah, that's the area that needs a great deal of expansion, as far as I'm concerned. And I learned this when I became a part of a grand family where we were raising our grandson for 6 years, and I'm looking for places for him, and it wasn't that easy.
Well, we'll have to keep working on that. A lot of people just keep mentioning that, prodding, encouraging. Well, thank you so much, Tina. It's been a great pleasure talking with you, hearing your poetry, and I look forward to the CBS Sundays offerings. I hope everybody will check it out. Once again, go to cbsmodesto.org/concert-series, and lots of great music there for you to enjoy.
Yes, we love to welcome you into our newly renovated venue.
And again, California Zephyr is performing when?
October 10th.
At what time?
3 p.m. And tickets are available now through Eventbrite, and through and there's more information also on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, and at the door, you can still buy at the door.
The Facebook page is what? CBS Sundays?
I think it should be Sunday afternoons at CBS.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again, Tina. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share things that I'm passionate about with the community.
Great. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.